So I want to walk you through a story that's, well, it's pretty intense, and it's all told through one person's own documents. This isn't some report written years later. We're looking at a timeline built from the personal notes, the emails, and the legal prep of a U.S. Navy sailor named Robert Roetman. These are all written as these events were actually happening to him. We're going to see this whole thing from start to finish through his eyes.
And yeah, those are his own words, looking back on the very documents we're about to go through. I mean, that really tells you everything you need to know about the emotional weight here. It just sets the stage for what he was experiencing. So with that in mind, let's rewind and go right back to the beginning.
Okay, so every story's got a beginning, right? For Robert, the years between 93 and 96 were this absolute whirlwind of huge life changes. We're talking marriage, becoming a father, a separation, and then a total pivot into a brand new career.
And when you look at the timeline here, what's just wild is how fast everything happened. In 1993, he gets married. A year later, his daughter Gabriella is born. By 95, they're separated. And then in early 96, with the divorce barely finalized, Robert swears into the Navy and is off to boot camp. You know, it really feels like he's making a clean break, starting a totally new life. Or at least, that's how it seemed.
So, this next phase, it's kind of like watching a split-screen movie. On one side of the screen, you've got Robert, laser-focused, building a new life and a career in the Navy. But on the other side, 1,000 miles away, a totally different and very difficult story is starting to unfold back home.
I mean, just look at this contrast. It is so stark. For his Navy life, it is all forward momentum. He graduates training, reports to his first ship, the USS Leyte Gulf, and then he's off on a major deployment. But back home, the ground is completely shifting under his feet. A request for full custody comes in. Then his overnight visits with his daughter get surrendered because of a cat allergy. And get this, his notes say it was a claim that was never even medically proven.
So you can just feel how this distance isn't just about miles anymore, right? His entire ability to see his daughter is now tangled up in the super demanding schedule of an active duty sailor. It's boiled down to just a couple of weekends a month, no overnights, and only if he could get leave.
All right, so now we get to early 1999. And this is where those two separate tracks of his life start hurtling towards each other, and it all happens incredibly fast.
It all kicks off with this email, a formal request asking him to give up his parental rights so his daughter could be adopted by her stepfather. His notes show he shot that down immediately, a hard no.
Just a little over a month later, he has what would turn out to be his last visit with his daughter for a very, very long time. He knows he's deploying, sure, but he has absolutely no clue what's about to be set in motion.
And just like that, 6 days after that last visit, he's gone. He's Petty Officer Roetman now, on a warship in the Adriatic supporting the war in Kosovo. I mean, he is completely off the grid, totally focused on the mission at hand.
Okay, now let's just pause on the timing for a second. Think about this. He has been at sea for only 3 days when, back home, his daughter has her very first meeting with a forensic specialist. This timing is something he points out again and again in his documents.
Can you just imagine for a second? You're on a warship in the middle of a conflict zone. Your whole world is the mission. And then, out of nowhere, a letter shows up from back home that just turns your world completely upside down.
All right, so the date is May 1st. Robert's still in the Adriatic Sea. He's been deployed for a little over a month. And then he gets that letter from his mom.
And man, in his own words, you can just feel the gut punch. He is devastated at the allegations, and he makes a decision right then and there. It doesn't matter that he's in a war zone. He knows he has to get home and set up his defense.
And, you know, getting home from a war zone isn't exactly like hopping on a commercial flight. We're talking a helicopter ride off the ship, multiple flights across Europe, and finally, on May 7th, he lands at JFK on emergency leave. He's back in the U.S., but he's walking straight into a firestorm that he can't even fully see yet.
So after that emergency leave, he actually had to go back and finish his deployment, which brings us to his official homecoming in September, the end of the whole 6-month tour.
And this is supposed to be the great moment, right? The warship pulls in, families are all there on the pier, cheering. His parents are there waiting to pick him up and drive him home to New Jersey. He's a sailor, and he's finally back from war.
5 days go by. He's at his parents' house, just in old clothes, about to head down to the basement to do some chores. A totally normal, boring moment. And that's when it happens.
He remembers seeing 2 people standing at the back door. He walks out onto the porch, just asks them, "Can I help you with something?" And they reply by asking him if he's Robert Roetman.
And right there, in that split second, his response, it just shows he knew. He knew exactly why they were there. There was no confusion, just this awful sense of resignation.
And this is the image that ends this whole chapter. The sailor, just days home from a war, is arrested on his own parents' back porch. And the thing he remembers most vividly? Not the cops, not the charges, but his mom's face, just trying her absolute best to hold it all together as her son is put in handcuffs.
Robert's timeline, laid out in his own documents, just leaves you with this one huge, nagging question. If you were serving your country thousands of miles away, completely focused on your mission, how on earth are you supposed to defend your own life when it's being dismantled back home? It's a question that just hangs over this entire story.